Hi, I'm Darren Decker, and this is Herb Brooks. We're back talking about troubleshooting gas chromatography.
So far, we've covered baseline noise and disturbances, fronting peaks and ghost peaks.
Bonus peaks.
Yeah, right. Now we're going to cover tailing peaks.
Tailing peaks, tailing peaks. Where do we begin? I mean, there are many things that cause tailing peaks.
The first thing I would ask the customer is, when was the last time you performed inlet maintenance? The most common source of the problem resides in the inlet. If the peak looks good, but starts to degrade and worsens over time, this is a classic front-end problem resulting from sample load.
If it happens suddenly, it may be that one or two particular dirty samples were injected, which accelerated the problem. Non-volatile contamination will build up and accumulate over time in the column, which can cause retention time shifts and/or peak tailing. Semi-volatile contamination can ooze down the column and basically coat the column, causing the same issues.
So, we'll start off with basic inlet maintenance, including trimming 10 to 20 centimeters off the front end of the column.
You could solvent rinse the column too, but we rarely see people do this as a standard practice since it's so time-consuming. Obviously, keeping the contamination from ever making it to the inlet or the column, that would be ideal. Using additional cleanup steps to prepare your sample, solid phase extraction, filtration, they might help, but of course that takes additional time and more method development. But if successful, this will definitely extend your column life. You can also try using a guard column. The guard column provides a place for the contamination to deposit and keeps the contaminants off the analytical column. You can also try a different liner with glass wool placed towards the bottom. Here's a picture that shows you what the glass wool in your inlet liner does. Contamination is caught in the glass wool and stays out of your GC system. This will help to trap any non-volatile contamination prior to even getting on the column. Sadly, it won't stop the semi-volatile contamination. Only baking out the column will remove that.
If you haven't performed routine GC maintenance recently, clean the injector, replace the liner, replace the gold seal and septa. You'll want to follow the procedure that I demonstrated earlier.
Once you've eliminated inlet contamination, but peak tailing persists, you should think about activity on the column. If you're analyzing active compounds, they may be clinging to active sites on your column. Again, if this is just contamination or damage to the front of the column, you can trim that portion off. Let me show you how to do that. We simply take the column, hold it in one hand, and for just ease of purposes, I'm holding it out in front of you just a section, and then I take my ceramic wafer. There's a rough side and a smooth side as you feel the edges of your ceramic wafer. Take the smooth side and just score the column to go through the polyimide and just nick the glass. It shouldn't break at this point, but at that point you should be able to apply a little stress to the column. It should break easily, and then you can remove it. If it is further down than that and subsequent trimming shows no improvement, then the entire column may be active. Unfortunately, this problem is irreversible. You'll need to replace your column. If you routinely analyze active compounds, you'll want to consider using an ultra-inert column. These columns are designed to give the best possible inertness available for active compounds. They can still become active with use, but you're starting with the most inertness available in the column. The other thing to know is that some active compounds will always tail. That's just the way it is. The ultra-inert column may help with this, but some compounds, there's just nothing you can do. We have had some analysts use a passivation, or as some people say, priming step, where they take a high concentration of an active compound, say an amine or an organic acid, depending on what they're working with, and inject it several times prior to the routine analysis in hopes of passivating the column towards the particular active compound. This has shown some effectiveness, but not necessarily in all cases. Another reason you might see peak tailing is because of a flow path issue. If there's an excessive dead volume or some sort of obstruction or poor installation, even severe column contamination, that can act as a flow path problem and give us peak tailing. The reason for that is because there's some sort of column obstruction, turbulent flow. The compound of interest has to make it around that obstruction, which causes the peak to tail. A good way to look for that is to inject something that you know has no activity whatsoever and is fairly volatile so that it spends most of its time in the flow path, such as methane or butane. Methane or butane gas should have no tail at all. If you have any tailing on something like that, then you know you have some sort of obstruction or flow path problem. The other thing to look at, and we see this is a consistent trend with a lot of these chromatographic issues, is that the column may not be installed properly. If we create a turbulent flow by doing a poor installation, this will generally show up as peak tailing. Getting a clean cut, getting the right distance of the column into the inlet and the detector, getting everything leak-free, all play a role in proper installation. If we have too much column up in the inlet, we create dead volume. If we have too little column up in the inlet, the column is down in the hole of the gold seal, and turbulent flow is in that area. So too low or too high is not good. 4 to 6 millimeters above the ferrule is recommended for the distance on the inlet side. On the detector side, it varies, but the idea is to put the column right up to the detection zone without creating any dead volume.